big fan of American oak, and this really it does just tell a lot about American oak and the value we have for it at Midleton.
Yeah. So maybe Joe, do you want to see what you?
Yeah. So very much like fudgy, toffee, lots and lots of vanilla on the nose there. It's very creamy, like buttery almost. You know, like there's a few of our whiskies, like the likes of this and the likes of Black Barrel. I always get a kind of buttery, like an Irish, thick, creamy, buttery character. Maybe like a little bit of coconut coming across there on the nose too.
Yeah, the American oak would be typical. Coconut flavour comes through on American oak. Yeah, because of the makeup. It's the
trying to decide though, is it like raw coconut? It's almost like reminds me of the coconut fingers you get from the bakery. You know. Absolutely beautiful nose, and this one's 46% by the way, guys. So slightly higher ABV than the MVR 21. So have a taste.
Wonderful.
Huge mouthfeel, very very rich and creamy.
Very mouth coating.
And 5 different types of distillate for this one?
Yeah, there's the range of the full range of the single pot still, which we have in Midleton, goes into this again. You know, it's a single pot still, but we have the range of distillate styles, and then you have the virgin oak, you first fill, predominantly first fill American oak, and a little touch of refills as well. But I suppose the American oak plays a significant part in the Barry Crockett legacy.
But it's funny because people could maybe be dismissive of one type of oak. But there's so much that's going on with this.
There's variability, between seasoning and refills, and that virgin oak, it all brings something different in parts, different flavours, you know.
Absolutely. This is the one that I'm particularly fond of because I love that boiled sweet character. I always get like pear drops and pineapple and strawberry bonbons kind of on the finish of this one. But then you go back on the nose and there's so much wood and so much sweetness and so much vanilla and so much fudgy character.
Toffee and such a long finish on it, you know.
I think there's a kind of a nutty note comes through as well at the end there, kind of maybe hazelnut.
We had a few people this is on for the previous whiskey. John Dunn has said kiwi, vanilla, and a little marzipan in the nose. Definitely, I would agree with that.
Good,
Absolutely. Yes, we're on bottle number 4. This is bottle 4, guys. Just for a few people checking. Please do keep your comments coming into the chat. It's all so much fun for us to see people's thoughts and let us know what you think of the whiskey. So that is our Barry Crockett legacy. I might go back for another sip of that one. So good, he put his name on it.
It's really good. Okay, we move on to the next one.
Yes, so
Finbar might take
we
this
have
one.
2 pretty interesting ones now coming up next. So we'll pass over to you, I think, Finbar.
Yeah, it's. I suppose there's so much to talk about here, but it's a fantastic addition, I think, to the Midleton range, and it's one that I really thoroughly enjoy because I get to go out to the forest in Ireland and watch these trees being felled. For those who don't know the full kind of concept behind it, you have tree 2 and tree 5 here from the Knockerath batch. So Dark Gaelic was released probably 2015 was the first with Ballytobin. 2014 maybe, 2015, yeah. And this sample that you have here is from Knockerath Estate, which is a 3rd iteration. So the first iteration was Ballytobin, and it was based in Kilkenny. The second iteration was Castleblunden Estate, and it was Bluebell Forest, and that was also in Kilkenny. We left Kilkenny and we came down to Wicklow, and I suppose we found a fantastic estate, Knockerath Estate, kind of in the Vale of the Clara, nestled in between kind of glacial mountains, and a lot of what we do, with trying to kind of I suppose hone in on these estates, we know that the quality of the wood is fantastic because these estates go back to the 1600s. Knockerath in particular was the 16th century. So even into the 1500s, and the Brabazons have kind of resided over that forest over that period of time, through the generations. And because I suppose that they're managed, we know that we're going to get very good quality oak, and we work with a kind of forestry consultant, so they're all well managed forests. He oversees them, and it's very important that with something like this we do it in the right way. We don't want to do anything that's detrimental, to the forest. So when we fell these trees, it's done under continuous cover forestry, and you're just taking a selection of trees out. And basically what we're doing is we're opening it up so that the saplings of that parent tree, if you will, can start to grow and start to shoot up to the light. So this iteration, I suppose, they're all cast strengths. There were 7 trees, and I think it was about 42 casts in the end. Cast strength, they're ranging from between 56.1 and 56.6%. So we picked 2 trees here, and I think tree 2 is 56.3%, tree 5 is 56.5%. And I suppose the interesting thing here is, it is the same distillate that goes into these casks, and you can still see differences in the strengths when it comes out. But one of the real kind of interesting points on this brand is the story behind it in terms of the tracing of these trees all the way through to the sawmills, which is actually sent over in Spain, because really Ireland aren't experts in quarter sawing. For barrel manufacturing, predominantly you need quarter sawn wood. So we felled the trees in Knockrath. We sent them over to the north of Spain in Barala to a sawmills that we've worked with for many years called Madabar. And we were over there for one of the sawings of one of the Irish oaks, and you see this big huge saw, and there's a guy kind of in the control center, and he can basically grip the log, so he can turn it to whatever way he wants to send it through that blade, and it cuts it like a hot knife through butter. And they have the specialty, they have the eye for trying to maximize the return out of this oak. Then from there, actually very importantly, each individual tree is cut and separated. So all the raw material and staves that they produce in the sawmills, that's all put on one pallet, and it's traced all the way through until the casts are manufactured. So when these staves are produced, they go down to the coopers that we worked with for many years, Antonio Pies Lobato. They do a lot of our sherry butts, and we asked them to make these Irish oak hogsheads because we're very passionate about using the Irish oak. We wanted to make sure that it was in good hands. So when they get the pallets, each individual tree is separated. And it's, so I suppose, Antonio then makes the cask, again, just working off each individual pallet. They'll raise it, they'll groove it, they'll hoop it, and they'll engrave it. So we can see all the different individual casts that come off that tree. So you have tree 1, you might have 7-8 casts, tree 2, 3 or 4 casts, and so on. So when those casts are delivered to Midleton, we know exactly where those casts have come from. And I remember Mickey Gabbett in edition 1, he was talking about there was people that came over from the States, and they wanted to get a picture right beside the tree that they had their
called to his house.
Yeah,
they called to his house looking for, can we see the tree stump?
and there's collectors then that I suppose collect version 1 to 7 of the 7 trees, I was only privileged recently enough doing a tasting with the Cork Whisky Society. We were able to taste all 7 trees, and it's a fantastic privilege to be able to see the differences, because all these trees are from the same forest, yet you can get subtle differences among the trees. They're all organic. They're all you can have a tree that might be on an incline. It might be a bit more stressed in terms of its growing conditions. It might have a slightly tighter grain, and it's just amazing to think that these 7 trees that we ended up using, there is little subtle differences among them. We chose tree 2 and tree 5 because there's interesting talking points, I suppose, between the two. I think without further ado, we'll start tasting one of them anyway. So we're going to look at sample 2, which is tree number 2. Yep. So again, it's 56.3% cast strength. and it's on the nose. I mean, it's very complex. I think for me, it's interesting that there's kind of tropical fruits, lots of tropical fruits coming through, and there is two different distillate styles. There's kind of a light pot and a heavy pot used in this, and the age range is between 15 and 28 years. So there's some old whiskies in there.
That's what's important to say as well, that the whiskey would have spent its initial part of its life in American oak for probably 15 to 26 years.
Yeah.
And then it was finished in these Irish oak barrels for, I think it was 2 years.
Yeah,
so there was a 2-year
months,
finish.
yeah.
So it's about the majority of its life was spent in American oak, and then it was finished in these beautiful Irish oak hogsheads for about 2 years.
Yeah. And that I suppose adds to the complexity of it. We know we get these different kind of taste profiles coming through from Irish oak. It's less dense than American oak, and even it's a standard European oak. It is Quercus robur, so it is European oak, but again, the conditions, growing conditions in Ireland, they have kind of a 12-month growing period, so it is fast growing. It is open pores, and it leads to lots of extractives coming from the Irish oak, and there's plenty of complexity there.
I totally get what you mean about the fruit. Like, I'm getting lots of banana on the nose.
It's like, and there's pineapple, kind of mango. That tropical fruits are there.
Fruit.
Maybe cherry again as well, but not like, I know we were talking earlier about different whiskey maraschino cherry. This is almost like a cherry you would get at the supermarket.
Again, there's lots of fudge and butterscotch, and
Yeah.
I think sort of coffee cake, milk chocolate coming through as well, which we found in the past to be really, I suppose, quite strong in Irish oak because of the makeup. I suppose just maybe mention as well, Finn, about the toasting and the lighter toasting in this style.
So like Midleton Very Rare, I suppose each batch that goes into this is different. It's not the same distillate that's been used year on year. We also play around. So we play around with the age. We play around with the cask profile. Predominantly, as Kevin was mentioning, it's American bourbon barrels for a big proportion of its life. But it wasn't as many B1s. Predominantly, it was more kind of refills like B2s. So it's a little bit kind of separate to what the likes of Kevin's iteration of MVR 21 was like.